The biggest battle that we will ever have to face is the battle between you and you. It's the battle of taking your mind to that limit and then breaking through. On the Mindful Experiment podcast, we will be interviewing individuals who have done that, who have gone through the struggles, who have tried to create a reality and all that they could. And when all the odds were against them, they made the impossible possible. I'm your host, Dr. Vic Manzo, and I want to thank you for being on the podcast and taking this journey with me as we go through and discover different avenues to break through those limits, different avenues to help you expand your reality so that you can evolve into the person that you desire to be. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Welcome to an episode, guys, with Dr. Vic here. This is the Mindful Experiment. We are talking about money. That's right, money, something that a lot of people strive, want to have more of. Some people say, I just wish I could win the lottery and everything would be great in my life and everything would be good. There's also the belief systems of money. And in my book, Rediscover Your Greatness, we dive into this. We talk about the concepts of what are the top 10 negative belief systems of all the research that I did on it, different sources, blended them together, saw some crossover, and I put the top 10 in there. And then which ones did I have? Which ones did I grow up with? Which ones did I hear of? In my community, in my village, when it came to money? What was the concepts and constructs of what I grew up with and thought was what normal is? And then how I had to overcome that to really take in perspective of my life to say, well, maybe it's something different. Maybe there's something more, there's something I'm missing. Maybe I was just taught something and it's not true, and could be different beliefs or different experiences that could be realized, actualized. So as I, started studying this and started studying money in general, and not only studying it as in like financial management and, investing and real estate, that's knowledge-based stuff. I studied those things. I'm talking about what money really is. Let's get to the root of it. And to be honest, guys, money is all it is life energy. It's life energy in its true form. Now, what does that mean? Well, some people say when you have a lot of money, you have more opportunities. That's true. You can create more opportunities with money. But what money does is it puts the life of whatever it is. If you wanted to start a business, sometimes you need capital to start it. And if you have the money to start it, you can create a new life into that aspect. And so with that, when you can constantly create new things, it creates new life. It creates new opportunities in all areas. You can create new experiences and go traveling with your family. You can create new things with business. And you guys know this. I don't have to go down this path. Material things is what a lot of people think of. The big house, the fancy cars, those types of things. But this podcast is really going to be more about the energy behind it, the life energy. And really what money all comes from, and it happened to me, and I share this in my book, and I go through the stories a lot deeper, but when it came to me and money, what I started to realize is that money really is a relationship. Okay? Money is a relationship, it's a viewpoint, it's what you think about it, what you have. If you abuse money, you're not going to have it, right? That's like excessive spending. If you don't appreciate money, and you just think, oh, well, money, like here's an example. I grew up and I always heard that people who had money weren't happy, right? They have more headaches. I've seen the people who have money and they're talking about all the stress they have and how stressed out they are. They get divorces, they have issues, no relationship with their kids, and all these things. And the stories came from multiple different family members that I grew up with and some friends. And it was a construct of what I grew up in. And so I always thought then, okay, maybe money is, something that they say it's for people who are unhappy. Well, I don't want to be unhappy. I want to be happy. So I guess, in my mind, I'm saying happiness is what I really want. And if I've been told in my head and it's been programmed that money is, it's not happiness, then what's going to happen is my belief system on happiness, of me being happy, having that negative belief system, I won't attract money in my life because in my head, money is not being happy and I want to be happy.
So why is my mind and my universe going to give me something of what I believe isn't true? Or it's not going to be congruent or what it is I'm choosing, right? But it goes further. There's other negative belief systems, right? Money attracts money. Money likes money. Money follows money. Those are some other things I've heard growing up. And, the thing is, it makes it seem like you're powerless. The people who have money, you just had luck. They were lucky. They were at the right time, right place. It just happened for them. And, and that's just the way life is. I thought that at one point too. And the key thing is, though, in your life, how true is that? Let's look at that story. Does that mean you're in control in your life and you can change your destiny? Or is it just, it's rolling the dice and you're just hoping that something falls in your lap? You see, at the end of the day, that's a very powerless statement. It means that you have no control. It means that you don't really have a say in your life. It means that you don't get to choose if you can make more money for yourself or not. But the thing is, in all reality, if you change your relationship with money, if you change your viewpoint on money, then all of a sudden money's going to change for you. And so in my life, I had to go through these negative belief systems. I had to find out what they were because I didn't know I had them. It's kind of like you learn a language and you don't realize the language you learned is the most optimal language that's out there. Or you learned how to play an instrument, but you found out you were playing it all wrong in the wrong cues, the wrong notes. You got to go back now, and you don't know that. And until you don't see it differently, you just continue doing the same thing over and over. These are programs in the mind. These are how constructs, this is conditioning, and so much more. And so I had to realize that money is just a relationship, and I had to look at my relationship and how I viewed money and take it to a different level. And I did. And one of the things I did in my life was I looked at money, and I started to realize it's life energy. I started to realize that it just happens in a form that for me, if I want more, I have to see it differently. And so I never said money makes me happy because research shows money, there's a certain level of money, how much you make per year. And then after that, it really isn't any different from making 100,000. I don't remember the numbers, so don't quote me on this. 100,000 a year versus Bill Gates' billions, right? There's really not that much of a difference when it comes to happiness and the level of it. So we all know that money doesn't make happiness. But what I started to realize is that money is life energy and creates opportunities. I started to look at it from a different perspective and say to myself that, well, money is going to help me become more who I am. Money is going to help fuel my dreams. Money is going to be something that can help me achieve and create a more fulfilled experience. And the more experiences I can create, the more I experience of life and knowledge and fulfillment, inspiration, and so forth. And I started to realize that, one of the things growing up in a very Italian Catholic church, it was like, if you have too much money, that can be greed because money is the root of all evil and all this stuff. But what I started to learn is, and I read some books, and some of these books really got to the science of it and talked about how God wants you to have money. If you're in the religious side of things, God wants you to have money. Because let's face it, you're co-creating this life with God. Technically, it's your higher self, and then God gets the experience of that. But let's just you're co-creating this life with God. Everything you experience, God experiences. So when you look at your life and you're saying to yourself, well, does God want you to suffer? Does God want you to have depression and frustration and worry and all these things because of financial insecurity? No. Why would God want that? God wants you to fulfill and have the most maximized fulfilled life. To go out and experience as many things as you can, because what you experience, he's experiencing, or it's experiencing. If you're going to go experience love, joy, and happiness, travel the world, and enrich your relationships, God gets that. If you're going to go out and start a business and it helps fulfill you and creates inspiration, and you're helping the world, God gets that experience also. If you're going to go and, let's say you want that fancy car. Let's say it was a dream of yours. You wanted a Ferrari, a Lamborghini, whatever it is, a Bentley, a Rolls Royce. Well, if you really want to go out that high with them, and you just love it, and it's just something that you always wanted, you enjoyed it. There's no ego behind it, and you're just loving on that, and you have that, and that experience and those feelings that it creates. Guess what? God gets that too. And so, why would God want you to experience the opposite of that? In life, you have to have the opposite because it helps you grow to achieve higher levels. But in the end of the day, overall, why would God want you to have that? Why would he want you to experience all the opportunities that are out there in this world? And that was the first pivotal changing point for me. It's starting to realize, okay, so God doesn't really want me, it's up to, God wants me to experience all that I can. So why don't I do the work to get there, to be that, be that first, do the work, and then make that happen. The second most biggest thing that happened is when it came to a law of attraction. When people say money attracts money, money goes to money, right? That's what I always heard growing up. And that's true. Very true, actually. But it's all about who you're being. You see, again, when I used to hear that, I used to think, oh, it's just people who are lucky, and this is just, again, I don't have that, they have it, and that's just life. But as I've started understanding what is vibrational frequencies, how quantum physics and how the universe works, I started to realize you play a big role in that, and you can control that. You can turn the tide and make it happen for you too. And so when it comes to money, attracting money in your life, you have to be at the frequency of what it is that you desire to make. And then I started looking, going, wow, okay, so it's all really based on me. And so if I go ahead and change my being and I start doing the work, I can eventually have what it is I want. All right. And as I studied this, and this is not something I just read a book and I studied, and you're talking about at least 6 months to a year minimum of work, research that I did, and meditations and applications and all these things to really grasp and understand, how does this really work? And then I took those principles and said, you know what? I'm going to take this, I'm going to run with it. And so I started to focus more on the being of me. What are the things? And I started looking at visualizations and affirmations. I started looking at, okay, what is it that I want to create and have? And no one told me the negative to it. So what I do is I set a goal of how much I wanted to make. I set a goal. And I said, it's going to happen. Nothing's going to interfere with that. I don't care what happens in the day-to-day, the month-to-month, the week-to-week, the month-to-month. We're going to make it. We're going to do it. And you know what? It happened. It happened. Did I get exactly what I was looking for? No, we missed it by a little. But when I looked at my overall growth, I was like, holy cow, this works. Amazingly how this works. Because it's a frequency. You cannot attract money into your life unless you're at that vibrational frequency for that number. So for example, research has shown, they've said this, researchers have said this, that if based on the law of vibrations and law of vibrations and frequencies and all that, that if you took all the wealth in the world and you distributed it equally to everyone, within a year or two, no more than 5, I would say 3 to 5, but let's go with what they said, within a year or two, all the money will be back in the hands of where it was. And that's because it's all about the vibration and frequency. Once you understand the vibration and frequency of where you need to be, eventually when you do the work, it's just going to happen. So for example, if you're at a vibrational frequency of making $50,000 a year, that's what you're at that frequency. But your job, you make $150,000 a year. You're going to create debt one way or another, spending, loans, whatever it may be, to drop it down to $50,000. If you made $1 million a year, but your frequency is only at 50,000, same concept. The opposite is true. If you are at a mindset of 100,000 a year, you'll make 100,000 a year. You'll save that, you'll build that, you'll create that because you're at that frequency. You're doing the things you're being the person who makes that. And so you're going to create and do that. You won't be able to do more, but you won't make less either. You'll make right where you're at. And so that's where I love about money, especially when you own your own business, because it tells you where you're at. It gives you the universe tells you, hey, this is where your mindset's been. Do you have a poor poverty mindset? Are you bringing back negative beliefs? Or are you in a positive mindset and you're bringing back, you're in that prosperous mindset? You have the power to change that. And this is why I love running businesses, is because it really becomes about you and the work you have to do, the person you have to be truly in order to attract and have all that you desire. Because I will tell you, I didn't do any more work. My career, there was a period of time in my career where I think we had over 300% growth in 2 years, right? And for me, I didn't do anything different. I really didn't. I didn't go out and do a Facebook ad or marketing. I didn't go out and do mailers or I didn't do any of that. We didn't spend money on marketing. We did it. We're a referral-based office. That's what most of the stuff that I do is that. But I was in line with what it is I wanted to create. I knew what I had to be. I put stuff together. I started focusing on positive emotions. I started being more in a keep hopeful no matter what came down. Because there was times it was not. I was like, holy cow, I don't know if this is going to work out. And then I just kept being hopeful. I said, it's all going to work out. I just got to keep my energy up. I got to keep my mind focused. I got to keep centered. And just know within it's going to happen. In the first year, we went over 80% growth. Second year, we almost hit 50% growth. When I look back from the 2 years before, it was over 320%. And so when I looked at that growth, I was sitting there going, okay, this works. This really freaking works. And so when that came to that perspective, I really had to take it in and start to look at my life. I mean, I 10x'd my business almost in 7 years. And, for me, that's huge. Who doesn't want that? Now, I'm not here to brag. What I'm trying to do is I'm not trying to impress you because that's the last thing I want to do. What I want to do is press upon you and inspire you that you can do the exact same thing. If you really focus that it's a relationship and you really focus that it's a beingness, you have to be the person first, you will attract it. It's law. Understand that it's a universal law. You will attract it. And you have to, you have to tie a positive associations with it. You have to reinforce positive reinforcement. Listen to people who talk about money and listen to people who invest yourself in it, read books on it, watch YouTube videos, listen to podcasts. I mean, nowadays it's so much easier to, and I say this very strongly, we are in the best times of our lives to create businesses and do what we want because we have all the resources in the world not to. To do it, I'm sorry. You have all the resources to do it. You have podcasts, you have books, you have YouTube videos, there's coaches, there's online programs, there's all these different things that are out there now that is so easily accessible to you to be able to do. Now, some may go, I don't have the money to pay for some of those things. Well, you get a book. What is it, $12, $20? Get a book. Read a book. Look at Dave Ramsey's book. Look at T. Harv Ecker's books. The Millionaire Mindset. Look at the Science of Getting Rich by Waddles. I forget his first name. Waddles. These are great books. Start there. I didn't have it either. I was in debt massively. And, but I started reading these books because I was like, man, I'm hitting a block every time. What's going on here? And I started reading these books and started grasping these concepts. And when I started to do that, life changed. When I started making it about a relationship and the frequency, then I just said, I just got to get into that frequency. And how do I make that happen? And it's a beingness. You have to be in that frequency. You have to feel it. You got to know within. And when you start to do that, you're going to transform your life and take it to higher levels than you ever have before. And I promise you that if you do the work, if you give it enough time, if you stay consistent, here's the key, guys, consistency, right? We talked about this in a podcast. It's on my former ones. It's consistency. If you stay consistent and you do the work, what you do now, some research has said in 2 to 3 months, if you stay consistent for the next 2 to 3 months, it will change the next 2 to 3 years of your life. And if you do the work, it'll take 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. But eventually, you will get there and you will have a different life. It's law. And sometimes it's starting a business. Sometimes it's just in your career. If you're really focused, you'll start jumping the ladder quick. How many people have done that before? They started a job within a year, they got a promotion. Within 2 years, they got another promotion. Within 3 years, 4 years, they're partner or they're an executive now and all that. You think that happens just by chance? No way. It's about doing the work. It's about knowing what it takes to be that person, knowing that it's a frequency, knowing that it's a relationship. And the more you evolve yourself, the more that you will attract in your life, not just money, but all the things that create a more fulfilled life. And that's what my coaching programs do is we talk about, as we'll be launching in the summer, our group coaching. It's all about creating more fulfillment. How do we create more fulfillment? And I do that in 90 days. We do a boot camp. We only accept a certain amount of people. We don't want to have, it's people who are committed. And in 90 days, we transform based on working on you. And when we work on you in 90 days, it creates enough energy and synapses and frequencies and all this good neuroscience stuff to start to tell the universe, yep, this is what's happening. And we have a whole criteria and program put together so that we can make it happen and help you get to those levels. So I'm sharing just a little snippet of that to help you when it comes to money so that when you do that, know that it's the relationship. How do you do this? Evaluate, ask questions, look at how you talk about money. Think about how do you think about money? What's your value? If you're like, oh yeah, I just wish I could have this much, then I can have that, this, and that. You're thinking on the lack. What are you worth? What are you worth to the world? How valuable are you? All of us are priceless. So remember that. So what's your value? What can you create that's valuable? What problems do you see in the world that you can create solutions for? These are the gifts you have. Everybody has them. That's the greatness within. That's why I called my book Rediscover Your Greatness. Really, when you read the book, you learn more about the game of life, and you know exactly how you can go ahead and apply those principles I share in my book to really remember the greatness of already who you are. I'm not teaching you something new. I'm trying to extract something you already have within. So look at your relationships and how you relate with money, and look at the frequency of where you are. And start working on changing your conversations, your words, your emotions to money, and shift that. That's going to raise your vibration, and that's going to start changing the story. That's going to start changing the script, and things will just start to work for you over time. It takes time, but you got to be consistent. So don't forget that. It's all about the time is something that's not like dictated to say, hey, this is what the time frame will be as long as you do that work. It doesn't work that way. It's just do the work, be committed, be consistent, know it's going to happen, and I promise you on the other side of all that, you will make it happen, because I will tell you, it happened for me, and if I know it happened for me, I know it can happen for you.
Thank you for listening to the Mindful Experiment podcast. For past shows, please visit www.empoweryourreality.com. I hope this show inspired you and added to your life to help you rediscover who you really are, to break through those limits. For connecting with us on social media, please check us out on Facebook at www.facebook.com/empoweryourreality. You can check us out on Twitter. Our handle is Dr. Vic21. And also check us out on Instagram. It's instagram.com/Dr. Vic Manzo. And as always, if this show you found to be helpful for you, by paying it forward and sharing this podcast with someone that you know who could benefit from it. And last but not least, if you liked the podcast show, please give us a review, 5-star. We'd appreciate that. Thank you for listening to the Mindful Experiment, helping you discover your infinite potential.